There are many different ways that you can get bacterial vaginosis or yeast infections or UTIs. One of them is sugar. So people who consume a lot of different foods that have high sugar. The second thing is like your period can also cause your pH to become unbalanced. So when you get off your period, now there's room for this bacteria to grow. So like that's one area of it. But then can your partner give you bacterial vaginosis? So yes, they can in two different ways.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Boujee Best Friend Podcast. We're talking about vaginas today. That is right. We're talking about all things vaginal health. And this is just one of the many episodes that I'm going to devote to destigmatizing vaginal health and just talking about all these things that most women are going through nowadays. Today, I had the pleasure of interviewing Daniella Levy Graubard. She is the founder of Happy V, a vaginal health company. Daniella was battling with bacterial vaginosis for 5-6 years, and she was going from one gyno to the other, and they were all just prescribing her medicine that pretty much didn't really do anything, and her BV kept on coming back. So she decided to take matters in her own hands, and she started a company that is focused on improving your vaginal health. So I had a conversation with Daniella about how the company started, her entire journey as a young female entrepreneur. And I just really enjoyed this conversation. And I wanted to start talking about destigmatizing all these things that we all go through. And at the end, we have a little giveaway. So stay tuned to see how you can participate and win a little goodie bag from Happy V. Before we get into the episode, I'm going to read one of the reviews that I got from Adele773. This is a short and sweet review. It says, great podcast, inspiring, positive, motivating, and fun. Thank you very much. Sometimes you just need a short and sweet review to make sure that you're on the right path. And I'm going to invite you all to please leave a 5-star rating and review on my podcast. Subscribe to the show so you never miss a single episode. Now let's hear from Danny. Daniella, welcome to Boujee Best Friend Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. We've been talking about this for a while now, so I'm happy that we can. Yes, so I'm so happy to be on your podcast.
Today we're going to talk about all things vagina and vaginal health. It's crazy that it's still such a taboo, and I'm just so happy to have you here to kind of not make it as a taboo as it currently is.
Yeah.
So please introduce yourself. Tell me who you are. Tell me about your company and all that.
My name is Daniella Levy Graubard, and
recently
I'm the founder.
Graubard. Congratulations.
Recently Graubard. It's still a little weird to me, but I'm the founder of Happy V, a women's wellness company that covers basically the A to C's of women's wellness, and we create dietary supplements for, like Coco, like you mentioned, vaginal health, for hormonal health, for gut health, but really focusing more on like reproductive and vaginal health, because like you mentioned, yes, it's very taboo. You know, there aren't that many companies that cover this part of women's health, which is so important. So yeah, that's what I dedicate my life to.
Let's start with the beginning. Why is this something that you were interested in? Give me like a little backstory. Why did you start Happy V?
So I started Happy V because I was struggling with my own vaginal health issues. And it wasn't like I woke up one day and I was like, I want to have a vagina company, because like, yeah, no, that was never I never saw that in my cards. I was struggling with something that's called bacterial vaginosis, which is actually one of the most common vaginal infections in the world. And during this time when I was struggling with it, I had no idea what it was, because again, like, vaginal health is so taboo. Nobody really talks about it. We're not educated on it when we're younger, when we're in school. Like, our parents don't really talk to us about it. I don't know about you, Coco, but I come from a Hispanic household where like sex, periods, all of that stuff is not even talked about. So
yeah, in my family, I mean, I'm Croatian. My mom obviously talked to me about periods and stuff like that, but we never really went through like, okay, this is one type of infection. This is one type of like, it was not really talked about.
Yeah. So it's just not really spoken about. And so when I was going through this, I started going obviously to the doctor, to the gynecologist, and I would just go in, get a checkup, like they told me, oh, don't worry, it's just a bacterial infection. And I was like, oh, is this an STD? Like, what is it? They didn't really inform me on exactly what it was or what caused it, but I didn't really think much of it. So I just went on my way, had my, and they prescribe antibiotics. So just took the antibiotics and I was whatever. Like I didn't really think about it again. And then I started getting it again and again, and it became a recurring cycle. And I started switching my gynecologist. I was like, does my gynecologist not know what they're doing? And then it just became this thing where I was like so self-conscious about it. I couldn't talk to my friends about it because nobody really talks about their vaginal health with their girlfriends, at least at that point in my life. And this was back in like 2012, like 2013. So like, yeah, like on social media, nobody's talking about this at that time. And I start looking into different like remedies online because I'm like, there's no way I'm going to live with this for the rest of my life. I'm not going to keep going to the gynecologist because all they keep doing is prescribing antibiotics. They're not really telling me what's causing it. So I kind of took matters into my own hands and started doing my own research. And I started like trying different remedies. Like on these forums, like a lot of these women will go down kind of like a rabbit hole and start trying different things because you're so desperate. You're like, I just want to get rid of this. And one of the symptoms is like a vaginal odor. And it's very, like pungy. So like, you'll notice if you have this. So like these women are desperate and everybody's trying to figure it out, like in the internet. And they're like, I tried, you know, putting garlic cloves up my vagina. I tried a hydrogen peroxide douche. And it's like all of these things that it's kind of bizarre that people are putting these things up their vagina.
Yeah. Why would somebody put a garlic inside of their vagina?
I don't know. So like, I don't know. And to be fair, like I actually did try some of these and they made the whole infection like worse and you would get like a yeast infection. It was just horrible. So, then I started dating my partner, Hans, who's now my husband. But obviously like it's a very embarrassing topic. Like you're not talking to anyone about it and you definitely don't want to talk about it with somebody that you just started dating. So like there would be moments where I'd be like, if I had like it was coming back, I'd be like, I don't want to have sex right now. And I'm going to be like super honest because I know that your platform is a lot about dating.
Yeah. For somebody who is going through that, it is very embarrassing, especially if, you know, you literally think my vagina smells and what am I supposed to do right now? Yeah.
So I was like, I actually like, I didn't want to have sex with him. And then he actually approached me because my husband, Hans, is very direct. And so he was like, hey, what's going on? Like, why don't you want to have sex with me? And then I was like, okay, well, listen, don't judge me. Like, don't criticize me because I know guys typically do this whenever somebody or a woman talks about her vaginal health. And I was like, I have this thing. It's called bacterial vaginosis. I have gone to multiple doctors. I have tried so many different remedies and it just always comes back. And so right now, like I'm having an episode and he was like very empathetic. He was very understanding, which I was really surprised because usually like a guy will be like, is this an STD? Like what the hell's going on? Whatever.
Like who did you sleep with?
Yeah. Or like, are you cheating on me? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, are you cheating on me? Like all of these other things come up. And he was like, I want to help you out. Like I want to help you figure this out because I'm sure you feel really alone. And I was really taken back by that because I was like, wow, like he really, I don't know how you're going to help me, but okay, why not? And so it happened to be that Hans's family has been manufacturing dietary supplements for over 25 years. So they manufacture a lot of the products that go into Amazon and Walmart and GNC. And they have formulators and chemists and naturopathic doctors that they work with. So we started working with his team of chemists and formulators to come up with something for me. And they found that there were like probiotic strains specifically for vaginal health and specifically for vaginitis, which is anything that has to do with bacterial vaginosis and yeast infections. And then when they created this formula, I kind of became a guinea pig because I was trying all of these different formulas. And then finally, after 3 months of being on this one specific formula, I didn't get BV again. And so I was shocked, number one, because I was like, how could this pill help my bacterial vaginosis? It was natural. And then when I was doing my research, I realized like there really wasn't anything else out on the market that was helping women with this problem. So that's when I kind of started looking into the scientific evidence as to like how many women struggle with bacterial vaginosis and yeast infections. And it happened to be like around 21 million women in the US each year struggle with bacterial vaginosis. And nobody's talking about it. And then the other thing is that 50% of those women will get a second recurrence after taking antibiotics. So that means that these women are going through the same path that I did, which is like going to the doctor, getting antibiotics, getting it again and again. And
how often was it coming back?
I would say like at least once every 3 months, like once every 2 months or once every 3 months.
That's
and
a
it
lot.
really, yeah, it's a lot. And like I said before, it just really takes a toll on your mental health because you're so self-conscious. You like don't really want to be intimate with someone.
Let's talk about what is bacterial vaginosis.
So bacterial vaginosis is an overgrowth of harmful bacteria in your vaginal flora. You've probably heard of like pH balance, like keeping your pH in balance. So your pH is supposed to be between 3.8 and 4.5. But when it goes over 4.5, that's when this harmful bacteria can outnumber the good bacteria, which is our lactobacillus. You've probably heard of like lactobacillus acidophilus. It's one of the probiotic strains. But when this happens is when you start to experience the symptoms of bacterial vaginosis, which are like this like unusual discharge, like a pungent, weird odor, itch, redness. So you'll start to like, you really will know if you're struggling with bacterial vaginosis.
Would you
because
say,
it's very,
what kind of discharge is it to get like super specific?
Usually like women have a sort of discharge. It's like clear or like maybe a little bit white. So this discharge is more like thin and like grayish, or even it could be like greenish yellow. So it depends on the person, but those are like the three colors I would say, like grayish or greenish yellow.
Are there any other symptoms that somebody, maybe they have one symptom, but they don't have another symptom, or they usually have all the symptoms?
You'll have like 1 to 3 of the symptoms, but actually 50% of women who get BV might not even have any symptoms at all. Like you have to get tested for it.
Wow.
So some people might not even know they have it.
So what's the difference between BV and yeast infection?
So BV is caused by a bacteria, a harmful bacteria overgrowth, and then yeast infection is caused by a candida or fungus overgrowth. So yeah, in your vagina, you have good bacteria, you have bad bacteria, and you have yeast. And typically, you just want more good bacteria over the bad bacteria or this fungus.
And what are the symptoms of yeast infection?
So yeast infections will be like that cottage cheese-like discharge. There's no odor really. And then there'll be like irritation. You'll have redness. It'll feel really painful when you're having sex because your vagina is very irritated. Those are typically the symptoms of like realizing you have a yeast infection.
So then you guys started formulating this product to help you specifically. What happened next?
Yeah. So when the product was helping me, we started doing our research just more into like the market and seeing like what is out there for women. What does the branding look like? What does the messaging look like? Kind of like that discovery phase of, is there really a market for something like this? There was only like maybe 2 or 3 other brands, but they were like so old school. They were basically,
it's like you're almost embarrassed to buy them.
Yeah, like you're embarrassed. It says like odor, like really in big bold letters, or like or vagina really big. Yeah, and so like it makes women uncomfortable to walk by the shelf and grab this product. And I mean, because even myself, whenever I would go to the drugstore, I'd be like, I would go real quick, like grab it and then hide it, like in my near my bag. And I even like sometimes I'll walk down the grocery aisle and I'll see like a woman going towards that aisle, and I could see her like looking around, like seeing if other people are watching. It's like nobody cares, but for yourself, you're kind of like, this is just embarrassing for me. We didn't want to make this embarrassing for women, but we wanted to make it approachable and comfortable. There's like another part in this that's really important. the ingredients that were going into this product. So when I was looking at other brands, like I saw that in the products, like they had like BS ingredients. They weren't really disclosing how much of each ingredient was in the product. They weren't effectively dosing each ingredient in the product. And what that means is just that a lot of times you'll see like proprietary blends on supplement facts or on the, like in the ingredients section of the packaging. And basically they're taking little bits of each ingredient, putting it together, and then making a claim based off of like one hero ingredient. So that's why a lot of people say like, supplements don't really work. They don't really help me. They're a waste of money. And yes, I would say like 99% of brands are probably a waste of money because they're not actual, they're putting a lot of effort into the branding and not a lot into the formula, which at the end of the day, that's what really matters. So
what was your first product?
So the first product was the blue one, which is our pre-probiotic. That still is our hero bestseller product. And it targets like vaginal health, gut health, and immune health. It encompasses like basically women's health overall. And then our second product was our UTI product, because again, that's like falls under infections. UTIs are very common.
Tell us about UTIs for those who never had one. I actually think I never had an UTI.
Then you're blessed because they're literally
because I heard
worst.
they're like super painful, and I never really. I mean, I had other vaginal issues, obviously, as the whole internet knows, but I don't think I ever had a UTI.
Yeah, they're honestly awful because you get this pain, this like constant urge to go pee, but like you have it for a long time. And
what
so,
causes
and then,
a UTI?
So bacteria called E. coli. And usually it's like if you're wiping like back to front or you're not peeing after sex, like bacteria makes its way up the urinary tract and then it'll like stick onto your urinary tract or onto your bladder. And that bacteria will form like a biofilm. Like, so basically this like thick resistance that is not allowing it to detach. So now you're like, you're all of a sudden starting to feel these symptoms of like having to pee all the time, like this burning, it's like a spicy pee feeling. It's really weird.
Like you're peeing a spicy margarita out of you.
Yeah, literally like tobacco's on your vagina and like from your vulva. So that's how you would get a UTI. And then those are the symptoms that you'd feel.
After you guys created these products, what was the first initial response from your customers?
Kind of like the same story as me. Like they were struggling for so many years, tried so many products. And then they were really thankful that there was finally that product that really helped them. I never really understood how many women were impacted by this infection or like these infections overall. And so when they would write to us and be like, you've changed my life. Like I can now, I feel like myself again. I feel like a woman. I feel like I can be sexy. And it's like all of these different things that no one really talks about.
I mean, vaginal health is such a taboo. Why?
It's really so taboo. I think it's taboo because it just goes back to our culture and not necessarily even like, you know, my Hispanic culture, your Croatian culture, but even in America, it's like women can't really talk openly about their vaginal health or like their reproductive health. And it's not up until, let's say like, I think 2015, 2016, that people started to vocalize more about their reproductive and vaginal health on social media. Now, that being said, like we've even had issues with like our ads or like what we can say or what we cannot say on social media platforms because they see that as it being sexual, which is not always the case. Actually, the majority of the time, it's not really sexual. It's like we're just trying to communicate how we're feeling and what we're going through. I think that more and more in our society, it's like getting better and more people are realizing that we need to vocalize these things because like for you, Coco, with endometriosis, like you didn't know it was, you know, you didn't know that it was a thing. Like you didn't know people actually struggled with this until it happened to you. But then now you have this platform.
I didn't even know the name of it. I didn't even hear the word endometriosis until my doctor told me this is what you have.
Yeah.
And I'm
so
like,
it's like,
okay.
And now that you know that you have it, you're like, well, I have this platform and I'm going to use my platform to vocalize my experience and help other women out. And I think that our generation and Gen Z are, they're like, we need to put these topics out in the open, and we need to have honest and open conversations about them so that we can destigmatize these topics like reproductive and vaginal health. Like even going into like products and things like that, like a lot of the products that our mothers used, they were like, smell like a rose, be fresh, and like all of this type of marketing. And I
think
my
vagina is not a garden.
Yeah, exactly. Like my vagina is not a garden. It is like stop categorizing our vaginas as like fruit or roses, because that's not what they are.
I hope I'm not gonna die.
No, but could you imagine like with penises, like if they're like, I don't know, like I don't even know what you could compare it
like
to.
A banana.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get into a male-female, the conversations right now, but it is mind-blowing that brand, Hims, has these giant billboards all over the fucking world promoting Viagra. And then you want to promote your brand and say, this is going to treat your vaginal infection. And then Instagram is like, Daniella.
Yeah, take it down.
Take it down. I mean, what do you do when you are literally being shut down by them?
So we have found ways around it. There's just different words that we have to use. Like we can't use the word sex. Like for example, on TikTok, when we talk about sex, we do like SEGGS, segs. Mm-hmm. So if you've ever been on TikTok and you've like seen, you're like, why are they saying segs? It's not because we want to, like, we don't want to talk about it. It's that they're going to flag our content if we don't use other words. So we've just found other ways to communicate it, because we're not going to stop. We're going to keep pushing forward. And hopefully one day there will come a time where we can say the words and speak about these things openly on social media without being flagged.
I remember when I posted a video and I used the word nipples, and it was literally, I was reacting a video. I was reacting a conversation between two people where one person is telling the other person, I can see your nipples through your shirt. And then the other person is like, okay, I have nipples. Like I have them. And they took it down. TikTok took it down. And then Instagram, I think it's still alive on Instagram. But yeah, I was mind blown how I say the word nipples and you take my content down, but then you have all these guys dancing around the entire platform, literally butt naked. I mean, girls and guys, but usually they take women's content down immediately. But I say the word nipple, but then you have guys literally showing their nipples 24/7.
Yeah, it's awful that it's censored, and we just have to continue to post because like there's no other way.
So you mentioned that Hans is your partner. How does that work in like your day-to-day life? So you guys are both a part of Happy V, correct?
Yes. So yeah, we're both co-founders in the company. We have very different working styles, and we also work on different things. So I'm more on like the marketing and creative side, and then he's on like the operationals, like manufacturing and like structural part of the company. So I like that we have that divide, because I get to work on the things that I love, and like he doesn't, he'll have a say sometimes, but like he's not in like all of our meetings or like in all of the projects. And same thing as me, like I'm not in all of the meetings or all of the projects, but like we have our separation, which gives us like that room to like breathe and like be apart from each other and not always be like 24/7 with each other. Because when we first started the business, like I think that was one of my concerns, because I was like, we live together, we hang out with the same people, we work together. It can be a lot. So we had to set like certain boundaries and kind of like divide up the work so that we weren't constantly together.
For somebody who's working with their partner, or maybe they're thinking about starting a company together, how do you implement those boundaries, or what is the conversation that you guys need to have before starting a business?
So I think one is when you're starting a business with your partner is that you have to make it known that you want, first it's like you have to define if there are different skill sets that you bring to the table, because I think that whether it's your partner or anyone else, like you don't want to have a lot of people that are like the same way, because then what's the purpose of bringing all these people together or collaborating on this business together, because they're all doing the same exact thing as you. So I think if you bring like two different mindsets into a business, you can divide up the work in a different way where like, okay, you're going to tackle these 3 things. I'm going to tackle these 3 other things, and kind of communicating that up front. I also think like communication is so important. So if something is bothering you or like something is like not working out, you have to communicate that and be open and honest with your partner, or else like things are not going to work out, or you're going to be arguing all the time, and that's going to dive into your relationship, and you don't want your business and then your relationship to affect one another.
And how do you separate work from personal? Like when you get back home and you're making dinner, do you talk about work all the time, or do you have like, okay, 7:30, we're going to stop talking about work?
So I will say that
I hear that.
So we're trying to get better in terms of like, let's not always talk about work, because it can take a toll on like the relationship. We've definitely learned over the years that if we're having a bad day, we shouldn't bring those conversations into our dinner or like our date nights, because it's like, we have to put a pin in it. We have to spend some time with one another to develop our relationship, or like to further our relationship, and not consume so much of the stuff that's going on in our business. And I think, and it's just been something that we've been working on for a while, because like, I will say that I do a pretty good job at like, okay, 7:00, like let's do dinner, let's watch a show, like let's do something, like let's go out with friends. Hans, on the other hand, is very much, he's always has a lot going on in his head, and he always wants to talk it out. And so I have to be like, can we talk about this tomorrow?
He's like Wes, exactly like Wes.
Yeah, I'm
they need to just talk about it.
They always want to talk about work.
In circles.
Yeah, so I'll be like, listen, let's focus on us right now, and then tomorrow's a new day, and we can talk about it tomorrow. And so I think that like just saying it, just talking it out is beneficial, and it has helped. So now we just got to like key that in, because I mean, it's inevitable. Like some people can turn it off and some others can't. So
I would love to talk more about your journey building a brand, building a company. This was your first entrepreneurial journey. Is that right?
Yes, my first.
How was it for you? I know that's such a loaded question, but building a brand from the ground up, even you did have a partner that you trusted. I mean, you trust. How was that how old were you when you started a company?
I was 25 when I started the company.
Okay.
So
let's go back to that time.
Yeah. Okay. So when I started Happy V, like I had no idea about business. I didn't know like the fundamentals of starting a business. Like, yes, I went to school for my degrees actually in business, but you learn it, but you don't get to apply it, right? So it's like a lot of it's just like textbook and applying and like presenting to your class, but you never actually get to apply it. So when I was starting Happy V, it was a lot of learning. Like I would take a lot of courses online. Like I would take a lot of different marketing courses and like business courses, and how to build a website, like how to do a label, like how to do just like all of these different small intricate things in a business that you don't realize you have to do until you're doing it. And I think the great thing about starting it when I was 25, because some people would say like, well, you don't really have experience to start a business, because actually I got that a lot. But like you should start it after you've like worked for 10 years and like you've been in corporate and you understand like the structure and the flow of things. And I was like, I'm just figuring it out and like seeing how it goes as I go. Thankfully, I had a partner that had a business before that. So like he was also like, oh, you know, I tried this and it succeeded, or like I tried this and it failed. Let's not do that again. So thankfully I had that. And I also had mentors that had businesses as well that I could reach out to and be like, I don't know what to do with fulfillment, for example. Like, should I do it myself or should I go hire a company? And then they would help me navigate that area of the business. But it was a lot of learning and a lot of patience and a lot of trial and error. And I think that if you're starting a business, you're gonna notice that you need to believe in yourself a lot, because there are gonna be moments where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Why did I do this? Like, maybe I should stop now. And like, you have to push yourself to be like, no, like, get your shit together. Yeah. Like, get focused. Like, you have to motivate yourself. Like, nobody's there telling you what to do. Nobody's there watching over you. Like, the success really relies on you showing up every day.
I have those moments every other day when I'm just like, why am I doing this? Why didn't I just, I don't know, work in a corporate? I mean, I did used to work in corporate, but I was like, why am I doing this to myself? But then I remember why.
Yeah, exactly. You always have to remind yourself why you started. I was like resilient in the sense that there were so many moments that I just wanted to give up, and I was like, no, we're gonna keep going. But yeah, in those beginning days, like, it was just me and Hans. And then it was me and Hans for like the first year and a half. For the first year and a half, it was just me and Hans. And then we brought somebody else on after that. And we hired like a lot of different agencies and freelancers that helped us get to the point where we are today, because we didn't have the finances to go, hire a whole team and like get a whole office and like all of these different things that some people might be able to do. But you have to be able to work with like the resources that you have in front of you. Thankfully, we've grown, like the business has done well, and like we've grown to the point that we are right now. And we have a whole team, and we're doing really well. So just don't give up on yourself.
I love that you guys create very fun educational videos on TikTok and Instagram. And I feel like you really understand the power of social media and how to use it properly to promote your brand. Mm-hmm. Tell me more about your TikTok social media journey starting a business, because a lot of companies are struggling with promoting their business online because they feel like, I mean, I don't know what they feel like, but what would you say? What would be the best approach to create content as a business?
Going back to what you said about our social media journey. Our social media journey really did start on TikTok, and it came to me as like kind of like a shocker, because people were like dancing on TikTok and stuff back like 2 or 3 years ago. And I was like, why would I hop on this app where I'm not going to dance and like, why would I dance? So what I started doing was, why would I dance on this? Like, how is that beneficial to the company? And then that might go back to a brand owner. Like, they're like, why am I going to do these like trends? And like, why, how is that going to help me? Anyways, so I got into TikTok, and I just started sharing like behind the scenes of the company, like how we create our formulas, or like in the lab with Hans, or like sharing my story. And that when I shared my story, I was like really transparent and honest, and it took off. Like, we went viral, and then I was like, what? People actually want to see this content? And so then I realized, like, okay, people want educational content. They want value added content. So they want to be able to like watch something and take away something that they can apply into their lives. And then they also want to see how things are made. Like, they want to see why, a certain ingredient is beneficial to your health, or like why, your packaging looks like a certain way. Like, people love that behind the scenes, or like they love like that educational information, because especially in this area of like vaginal health, where like not a lot of people are talking about it. Now, fast forward like 3 years, more and more people are talking about it. More people are talking about sexual health. But I think that that's why it's been so successful for us, like using those platforms, because people are like, this brand like understands what I'm going through, and they're helping me get through something, whereas I wouldn't be able to any other way, because I can't talk to my friend, or I can't, maybe I can't go to the doctor right now because I can't afford it. I don't have insurance. So people are like going to these platforms to seek out information now.
What would you say is the repeating question that keeps on coming to you as a business owner and a brand that is talking about vaginal health?
There are a couple. So one of them, in terms of like vaginal health and what I see a lot, I think it's my partner that's giving me an infection. And it just goes back to one, like we're not as educated on this topic, like growing up or even until the point that we get an infection. And a lot of times we'll point at our sex life. The thing is that it's not always sex. Like it could be so many other things. Like it could be eating a lot of sugar, like the feminine products that you're using, your period, birth control. Like there are so many different things that can affect your vaginal microbiome. So that's one. The other thing is like people will comment like, does this really work? It says it does like X, Y, and Z. It says that it's going to help with my BV. It says it's going to help with my gut health, but that's too good to be true. So it's like we have to continue to prove and educate on why our formula, our ingredients are going to really help you with these issues that you're struggling with. So it's a lot of like, people are just skeptical. Like people are skeptical in the terms of like, I've already tried so many different products and people have a lot of questions. So it's just important to address their concerns and their questions so that they feel more comfortable and that they could feel like they could trust you.
No, I really do love how you guys are always showing like the behind the scenes, and it gives like a little intro into your whole process, and people feel like they're more part of the brand than versus like all these huge companies that you barely even know who the founders are. So I really love that about you and your brand. You mentioned that people think that sex or their partner is causing all these infections. Can a partner actually cause your BV or your yeast infection?
There are many different ways that you can get bacterial vaginosis or yeast infections or UTIs. There are many causes that can affect your vaginal microbiome. And like one of them is sugar. So people who consume a lot of different foods that have high sugar. The reason why you could get an infection from that is because bad bacteria actually feed off of this sugar and then they thrive and they take over your vaginal microbiome. Same thing as yeast. So you're actually feeding this bacteria or this fungus, and then now you're getting these infections. And a lot of people don't really know that. The second thing is like your period can also cause your pH to become unbalanced. So when you get off your period, now there's room for this bacteria to grow again, because your pH is out of that range, 3.8 and 4.5, and can start to give you like bacterial vaginosis or yeast infections. So like that's one area of it. But then can your partner give you bacterial vaginosis? So yes, they can in two different ways. One, so if your partner is ejaculating into you and you're not on birth control, semen has a pH of 9. So semen can alter your pH. So now when your pH is altered, again, this bacteria can outgrow the good bacteria. If your partner is cheating on you, so if your partner is having sex with someone else, they're not cleaning their penis, and then they're going and having sex with you, then that could also cause BV. Now, like that being said, I would still, like if you think your partner is cheating on you, like you need to go and get tested. You need to go to the doctor and you need to examine like exactly that's why it's really important to go to the doctor, because they could tell you what could be causing it, and you have to ask them too. Like you need to be like, what do you think could be causing it? And they'll start going through a list of things. Like, do you do this? Do you do this? Do you do this? And they kind of help you identify like what those triggers could be for you.
But you said that when you were going to these doctors, they were pretty much not able to find your diagnosis. Or what was
that's because I wasn't asking questions. I didn't know what questions to ask. Like I would go there and they'd be like, yeah, you have BV, here you go, here's a prescription to a medication. But they didn't sit me down and say like, let's go through your diet, let's go through what products you're using. And I think that now they realize that more people are going to the internet and social media to find out what is causing it, that now they are like a little bit more open, like they'll discuss it further with you versus before they just be like, here are antibiotics and send you on your way. The other thing is that you should come equipped with questions so that there's room for discussion, because if, there's certain doctors that don't, they see you for 5 minutes and then they leave. You really weren't able to have a conversation with them. So either like ask the doctor or the nurses, come in with your questions and they'll hopefully sit down with you and like go through them to help identify what is triggering your infection.
You mentioned these feminine products. What is your opinion on these like special vaginal washes or any special soaps?
So you do not need them. Your vagina does not need these vaginal washes or like cleansers or deodorants. It's honestly, I wish that they didn't market them to women because they're really unnecessary. They have a lot of ingredients that will actually alter your pH and cause you to get irritated from these ingredients or cause an infection. And the reality is that your vagina is self-cleansing. It actually cleanses itself. You really only need water or like a sensitive soap, like Dove sensitive soap, versus buying these like pink washes that are like, you're going to smell like a garden, water lily, like jasmine, like summer's ocean or whatever, like they name it, but they're really unnecessary. And save your money. Don't buy them. Just buy like regular unscented, like the least amount of ingredients in the soap. And then also same thing goes for your tampons and your pads. Like don't buy the scented ones. I used to be the person that would buy the scented ones because I was like, I don't want my period to smell. Your period has its own odor and that's okay. And like no one smells your period. But these companies have ingrained this marketing into us that we think that we need to smell like a certain way. So just like don't buy like the scented pads or tampons.
Let's talk about underwear. Are G-strings, thongs, are they maybe causing some infections sometimes? Because I see sometimes people mention that.
Okay, so I know that a lot of us probably wear thongs or like the like super sexy underwear. And unfortunately, that type of underwear, the material that it's made out of, which is usually like spandex or nylon or like, what's the other one?
Polyester?
It's like the lingerie. Yeah, polyester is going to cause infections. And the reason is because these types of materials are not breathable materials. So believe it or not, your vagina needs to breathe. Like this bacteria can accumulate on the underwear and can create a breeding ground for bacteria to thrive in. So it's really important to try not to wear those underwears, like unless it's like, you're going to be a freak in the sheets. Yeah. And then the other thing, fun fact, but you should be switching out your underwear. Like you should be buying new underwear and like switching out old underwear every like 8 to 12 months. So I didn't actually know that up until like a couple years ago, because a lot of people will keep like their same underwear for years, like 10 years. And we should actually be switching it out often.
That's a really good tip. And I never even thought about that. Imagine those underwear that you keep for 10 years.
Yeah. No, like, I don't know, it's like hanging by a thread. You're like, no, I want to keep it. I don't know why, but I do.
I would love to hear some best practices or some tips that you can give women they can implement today to improve their vaginal health.
I have a few. So the first one, and I'm really big on this one, is look into your diet. Look at what you're eating. Make sure that you're eating a lot of leafy greens, a lot of like lean proteins. Like diet is so key when it comes to obviously like your overall health, but also your vaginal health. And I think a lot of us probably don't even think about the impact that it has on our vaginal health.
I don't. So, I never thought about it. I swear to God. Yeah. I will start thinking about it now.
No, seriously. So you want to avoid anything that's high in sugar or processed foods, because sugar will actually impact your vaginal health in a negative way, because this bacteria or harmful bacteria and fungus will feed off of the sugar, and you want to prevent that from happening. So just try to like minimize your sugar intake and the processed foods that you're eating. And then the second one is your menstrual products. So like I was mentioning before, you want to make sure that it's like organic cotton, that they are not scented. And then also that you're switching out, if you wear tampons, that you're switching them out every 3 to 4 hours, because if you leave them in longer, your tampon can actually become a breeding ground for bacteria. You want to make sure that you're changing them out frequently. The other one is making sure that you're hydrated, that you're drinking a lot of water. And again, like we think about it as our overall health, but we don't think about how it impacts our vaginal health. When you're dehydrated, it impacts your pH levels, and it'll actually make your pH more alkaline, meaning that it's like going over that 4.5 range. And you don't want that happening. The other thing is like peeing after sex. You want to pee after sex to flush out any bacteria that may have gotten up there while that friction was happening. The other thing is incorporating a really good probiotic, because probiotics are good bacteria that are going to protect your body from any harmful bacteria or any imbalances in your body.
If somebody wants to try one of your products, even though they might not have an infection right now, what would you suggest they should start with? Just to kind of keep their vaginal health under control.
Yeah. So our Happy V prebiotic plus probiotic, it's not a product necessarily that you would need if you have a vaginal infection. It has strains for gut health as well, and it also helps with immune health. Plus, bonus side, it also helps with vaginal health. So it's really covering all areas of a woman's body. And it also has prebiotics, which helps eliminate that bad bacteria. So you're making sure that like your entire body is in balance and you're protecting it from any infections. And then the other product is our Happy V liquid chlorophyll. So that one I love. Like you just put it in water. It tastes like earthy and like it tastes healthy.
It's
like
so pretty.
You taste like it's really pretty, and it actually detoxes your body. Our Happy V liquid chlorophyll has so many benefits. So it helps with bloating, it helps with your digestion, it helps with your skin, it helps with your hair, and it's basically detoxing your body. So I love taking that one every single day. A lot of people love pairing that one with our prebiotic plus probiotic. So you're like tackling your gut health, you're tackling your vaginal health, and you're detoxing your body.
Okay, we're going to wrap up in a few minutes, but before we do, I'm just thinking, like, since we're talking about the vaginal health and all that stuff, I mean, it's crazy that there's not that much research about the whole thing. Or am I wrong? Like, where's the research nowadays with vaginal health?
No, so you're 100% right about research. So it's pretty interesting. Back when I was researching everything about like bacterial vaginosis and yeast infections and all of that, I realized that there wasn't a ton of information around it. And then I went back and I realized that women weren't included or weren't required to be included in clinical trials up until 1993. So 30 years ago, or so around the time that we were born, was like when women started to be included in clinical trials. And so one of the concerns about that is like, for example, women or people who experience heart attacks. So a lot of the research was done obviously on men. So people thought that like, okay, so women also get experience the same symptoms as men when they're going through a heart attack. And actually that's different. Men get pain in their chest. Women will get nauseous or dizzy or shortness of breath. So women were dying from heart attacks, and they couldn't even pinpoint what was why they were having a heart attack or when they were having a heart attack. So it's just so important that, that crazy. Women are included in this research. And also like men and women are completely different. Our reproductive organs are very different. And so now, there is like more studies, or there are a lot more studies around women's health, but I'm sure like in the future, there will be a lot more information regarding women's reproductive health and vaginal health. And like what we're seeing right now, it's like just the beginning. I mean, it's only been 30 years. So
that's wild.
Yeah.
I remember when I was working with a brand that was focused on periods, and they were talking about all these health trackers that were also just doing studies on men. And they didn't do it on women purposely because of their hormone levels our hormone levels always go up and down. So it was harder for them to do research on women because of our hormone levels. What? So they were just like, okay, we're just going to do it on men. And that's now insane. With my Aura ring and all these other things that I'm using, now they have the periods implemented, and they tell you when you're supposed to be ovulating and all of that. So yeah, I mean, it's mind blowing, and I'm so happy that you are spreading awareness.
And you too, and even like now, Coco, with you finding out that you had endometriosis, and like first of all, going to the gynecologist and getting checked up, which is like really important. And every woman needs to go to their gynecologist and get checked. But also just us pushing these messages forward out in social media or like wherever it is that we're like where we're speaking. It's really important because that will help further research in women's health too. Like we do have an impact in some way, shape or form just by like communicating it. And it just goes back to like, we have to continue to destigmatize these conversations. We need to be open about them and like talk to your friend, talk to your mom, talk to whoever about these issues, because people will start to notice, they'll start to like be more aware of like what's going on with women's health. And it will continue to spread that message to hopefully do more research on women's health.
And I'm just going to say one thing. If maybe you don't have insurance, you don't have a doctor that you want to go to, and you think, oh, but an exam is so expensive. It is expensive maybe to go to like a private practice, but it's going to be more expensive if you're going to be dealing with a huge issue that could have been prevented then and there. Yeah. And just think about all the money you're spending on clothes and makeup and all this bullshit. I'm sorry, but like your health is number one priority. And I realized that when I was going through all of my situations, like laying that there in the hospital surrounded by, all these, some women taking their uterus out, like it was just like, it was such a eye-opening experience for me. Yeah. And I wasn't really stressed about any of these other material items or any of these other things that we're stressed on a daily basis when I was going through my surgery and stuff. So yeah, if you think that going to the doctor is too expensive for you right now, just think again and go get yourself checked. Just be on top of your health, because nobody else is going to be on top of your health for you.
Exactly.
Daniella, this was wonderful. And can we do a little giveaway with Happy V and some of your favorite products?
Yes, I would love to do that.
Okay, so as I always do, I post a little real recap of our conversations. So for anybody who wants to be a part of the giveaway, you got to follow Happy V on Instagram and drop a comment under the video and tell me what was your favorite part of this episode. Daniella, can you please share where everybody can follow you, where they can find Happy V and all the socials?
Yeah, so you can follow Happy V on Instagram at myhappyv and on TikTok also at myhappyv. And then my personal is at Danny_Levs.
Okay. Amazing, Daniella. Thank you so much for being a part of the Boujee
Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, and I'll see you next time.